Thanks so much, Andrew. We really appreciate your robust plan and the opportunity to allow our students to speak with you today. Certainly our audience here at New York Law School is quite strong. We have one of the city's leading land use and certainly affordable housing programs of any law school, and offer many different opportunities for our students to serve fellow New Yorkers in these capacities. With us today, and they'll be coming on the screen now, are 4 of our students who have a number of questions they would like to ask you, many of which are related to the topics you just outlined, and also some additional topics on leadership. I'm going to first ask Jordan to ask you his question. Jordan is the president of our student body and is going to be a 3rd year in the fall. Jordan?
Hello, thank you for being here again. This is an awesome opportunity, and I look forward to asking you a question. As the dean introduced me, my name is Jordan. I'm from the DC area. I'm a 2L, will be a 3L next year. I currently live in Brooklyn, and I'm very interested in tax law. The question that I have for you today is, your campaign website notes that your administration will address homelessness and housing in part by ensuring greater coordination across the city through a data-driven approach. In other widespread data collection processes, such as the census, there have been issues of underrepresentation and underreporting. How will you ensure that the data you collect will count and will serve every New Yorker equitably?
Thank you, Jordan. It's a tremendous question. And I have to say, you're on your way. I certainly wasn't the student body president in law school. So the sky's the limit. I think your question is spot on in that it's speaking to one of the big challenges we have, which is integrating more New Yorkers into our city in a way that we can frankly even measure what's going on with them in terms of their health, their housing, the other issues that they're facing. This is particularly true in a city that has hundreds of thousands of undocumented immigrants. One of my great projects will be trying to get more of them bank accounts because right now 11% of New Yorkers don't have any bank account. And so they're spending hundreds of dollars a year on check cashing fees and money lending fees and this informal system that is not good for anyone. It's certainly not good for them. They're spending money that they shouldn't have to if they just had basic financial services. So I mentioned this because there has to be a wholesale effort on the part of the city to identify people that right now are falling through the cracks or living in the shadows, and then try to improve their quality of life in various ways. And if we do this, then I believe that our data collection will improve significantly. It's very, very hard to get accurate data when you're just checking in every once in a while and you're saying, okay, let's count people or let's figure it out. Like, you have to actually invest in trying to connect more people to city agencies and authorities and various systems. And it's going to be a big challenge because a lot of people, frankly, don't trust city government on many levels. And so our challenge is going to be to try and to not just identify them, but also show that we're here to help, that we can add value. And then if we do that at a high enough level, then I think our data collection will improve very significantly. But you have to integrate data collection with other efforts. If you just say, let's go get the data, then you're likely to miss a lot of people, a lot of things.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Next, we have Kimberly. Kimberly is a member of our Dean's Leadership Council.
I'm having trouble hearing. Can someone? Sorry, there's a bit of background noise for me. I'm trying to get the volume.
Not a problem. This should be a little better.
That is a little better.
Next, we have Kimberly. Kimberly is a member of our Dean's Leadership Council. Kimberly?
Hi, my name is Kimberly, and I am a Brooklyn resident. I'm currently in my 1st year, but after law school, I am hoping to go into commercial litigation. So my question for you, Mr. Yang, is on your journey to where you are today, what mistakes did you make along the way that transformed into life lessons or learning experiences? And how are you going to use those experiences to lead our city?
Well, thanks for the question, Kimberly. You may all know, and I mentioned it, I went to law school, and then I practiced law for a brief while and then left to start a business. And that business did not work out. that business failed quite miserably. My parents still told their friends I was a lawyer. It was like easier for them to have that conversation. And I learned a ton from that failure. I told myself during that period, like, never forget this, because you have to know how difficult things are, but also that you can pick yourself up and get up from it. And so in terms of how that has guided my experience since then, is that you want to build a culture and a team environment where people feel like they can put themselves out there and make their best efforts. And if it doesn't work out, that their teammates will put their hand on their shoulder and say, it's okay, you know, like, we understand that you had the right values, it's just it didn't work out this time. Because not everything succeeds. And, you know, if I am the next mayor, we have a lot of challenges ahead of us. We're going to be making great efforts in multiple directions. And frankly, not all of it's going to work out exactly like you hoped. And the goal is you can look at the person who was leading that initiative and look at them in the eye and say, it's okay. Like, we understand that, you know, like, you had the right values, the right process. And if we didn't get the result, let's figure out what happened and let's keep working at it. But I learned that the hard way by having that failure early on in my career. And it's always made me want to, frankly, do more for the people who are just starting out. I've always been a bit of a fan of the underdog. You know, I grew up one of the only non-white kids in my town. I became a Mets fan. You know, I worked for small businesses myself for a number of years. And so I really internalized that set of experiences.
Great, thanks so much. Next, we have Justin. Justin is the president of our Asian American Law Students Association. Justin.
Hello, hello. Thank you for being here again. Yeah, my name is Justin. I'm a resident of Manhattan. I'm a 3L and I would like to get into commercial real estate after graduation. For my question, as a Seattle native, I've seen the economic effects of big businesses coming in quickly and how it affects the city, especially when the city doesn't have a plan. Post-pandemic, how do you plan on balancing the leverage of having these big businesses come into the city's economy, but also keep them accountable to reinvest back into the community?
Thank you, Justin. I have visited Seattle. It's a beautiful city, but I kind of know what you're talking about. You know, there are certain parts of the city that seem very, very different than other parts of the city. And I think one of the goals of the next administration is to be inclusive with our growth. A lot of New Yorkers were not included in the last number of years of economic success pre-COVID. And there are a number of things I think we can improve on. Certainly this affordable housing plan is a big piece of that. Trying to improve our schools will be a big piece of that. Some of our anti-poverty initiatives around getting people high-speed internet at home or bank accounts or cash relief, I think will be part of that. But the big lesson, I think, from other communities is you have to be deliberate. Like, you can't expect the market just to figure it out, because the market is going to favor developing certain neighborhoods over others. It's going to favor very high concentrations of wealth much of the time. And one of the big purposes of city government is to try and make it so that the gains are more broadly distributed in different ways, and that people can enjoy some of the benefits of the city more equitably. It's one reason why, for example, rezoning Soho is so important, because if you have new affordable housing units in that community, then people will be able to participate in some of the business growth and success that we hope to catalyze. And I will say that it's mission critical for the next mayor to make it so that the jobs are coming back and the businesses are very happy to invest here. Because right now our city is down 600,000 jobs or so. I think that number is coming down progressively as we start to reopen. But it's going to be very, very difficult for us to achieve our goals if people aren't excited about our city's environment economically for businesses small and large.
Great, thanks so much. And next we have Ellie. Ellie is also a 1L and a member of the Dean's Leadership Council.
Hi, Ellie.
Hi, Mr. Yang. My name is Ellie. I'm a Queens resident and I'm a 1L. After graduation, as of right now, I'm hoping to work in family law matters. Your administration seeks to launch the largest basic income program in history. aiming to end extreme poverty in New York City by putting cash relief directly into the hands of 500,000 New Yorkers. To make this goal a reality, your administration plans to invest $1 billion per year, distributable through New York City's existing Municipal Identification Program, ID-NYC, and a proposed People's Bank of New York. What are the first steps your administration will take to garner the political and public support necessary to make this vision a reality?
It's a great question, Ellie, and I'm happy to say that now versions of this are being launched in Los Angeles and about half a dozen other major cities. And right now, New Yorkers can sense that our people are hurting and that there are a lot of folks who are this close to losing their homes or winding up in very, very desperate circumstances. So the case I've been making, which has been resonating with a lot of New Yorkers, is that we're all well served if we're investing some level of resources, keeping people in more stable and secure environments, than having them wind up in our sheltering system or even worse on our streets or another institutional system that is very, very costly. Right now in our sheltering system, New York City is spending up to $6,000 a month housing a family in our sheltering system. In our criminal justice system, the amount is staggeringly high. It's much higher than that. And so the goal is to keep people in more stable and secure environments. And one of the things that actually is tied in is what Jordan was asking about, is it's actually going to be an incredible challenge even identifying people who are in extreme poverty in New York City, because so many of them are undocumented. I had this experience last year when my organization gave $1 million away to 1,000 struggling families in the Bronx. And it was actually quite difficult to identify the 1,000 families that you could get the money to quickly, where we ended up going through a partner called Neighborhood Trust. It's a financial services organization for the working poor. So the reality is, even as we're galvanizing resources and building political will around this, the challenge in real time is going to be identifying New Yorkers who are struggling in extreme poverty, even to be able to have them get an ID-NYC, a bank account, and be able to transfer funds to them. I think that this is going to be a major project of our first year. We have to move as quickly as possible, because even as we're trying to get back these 600,000 jobs that we're missing, there are going to be a lot of people that are still left behind. And the sooner we can stabilize the situations they're in, the better it's going to be for all of us.
Great. Kimberly, you have a question on right to counsel.
I do. So in response to COVID-19, right to counsel has been expanded in housing cases. How would you amend the law permanently to expand the scope of the law so that more residents are eligible for legal services beyond certain eviction cases, and to cover a wider array of landlord-tenant disputes?
Kimberly, it's such a great question. They really are teaching you the right stuff at the law school, because the right to counsel has been an enormous positive for keeping people in their homes. It turns out that if you have representation, the odds of you staying in your home shoot up. And so my goal is to make the right to counsel universal for anyone within several times of the poverty level. Like if you make above a certain amount of money, then you'll be okay. And if you need to hire a lawyer, you can do so. Maybe one of you in a little while. Which of you wants to like commercial litigation? Sorry, I'm trying to remember what you all wanted to do. But the right to counsel has been an enormous success. And our goal as a city should be expanding it to as many people as need it. And so my plan is to do just that. My plan is to say, look, if you are within 300% of the poverty level, you should have a lawyer. And that's a win for New York City.
Great. Jordan, you have another question as well. An important one that harkens back to one of the comments concerning the Housing Authority.
Yes, I do. To that end, Mr. Yang, as your campaign website notes, there are over 300 public housing developments in disrepair, with a repair cost of more than $30 billion. Using what you learned during your presidential campaign, how will you work with the Biden administration and Congress to ensure that the New York City Housing Authority, which was originally designed to serve about 350,000 people and now serves many, many more, gets the critical federal funding it was effectively denied?
We have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to access tens of billions of dollars for NYCHA. And when I talked to Joe Biden about this last year, he said to me that we literally need to rebuild the country. And he meant that. And if you're going to rebuild this country, I think most of us would agree that you'd want to start with NYCHA, which, as you just said, Jordan, it has a $30 billion infrastructure deficit that's actually growing, not shrinking, because many of these buildings are, frankly, continuing to crumble. And so we have to act fast. This is an enormous opportunity. We're talking about a $2 trillion or so infrastructure bill that's getting approved. And I think most every New Yorker would agree that NYCHA would be a phenomenal place to invest some of this federal money. So if I look at the challenges ahead and the opportunities, challenges I think we all have a sense of. We're missing, again, hundreds of thousands of jobs, and many people right now still aren't coming into the office. You know, some schools aren't fully occupied. But if you look at the opportunities, a lot of them hinge upon infrastructure, federal funds for redeveloping NYCHA. And so I'm going to lean in full force into that opportunity. And I do have relationships in DC where I can call folks and say, hey, like, let's rebuild NYCHA, and then you can come and take some credit for it. Like, why not? Like, isn't that a win? We have a 2-year window. I would say a 2-year window in many ways, even as a country, because there's no guarantee that Congress looks like this after 2022. And I say 2 years in the context of New York City because we have federal aid coming in that's going to make our budgets whole for 2 years. So my hope is that NYCHA becomes an enormous part of the rebuilding of the country in the next 12 months. And I think there's a great chance that that happens.
Thank you.
Justin.
If you are elected mayor, how would you build your administration so that you can accelerate the city's recovery from the pandemic and hit the ground running as soon as you take office?
Thanks, Justin. I confess I do think about this a fair amount. And what we need to do is we need to build a team of results-oriented, dedicated individuals who just want to solve problems and aren't terribly politically minded. By that, I mean, aren't going to come to a situation and say like, hey, like I have a preset sense of what's going to work in this situation. Like we need to move fast, but we also need to be very data-driven and adaptive. And so that's the team I'm hoping to build. I'm excited to get started, truly, because our city really doesn't have any time to waste. We have to build out not just the mayor's office, but leadership of 67 agencies. Certainly, there are many people who are doing extraordinary work in city government right now that we need to build on their work. You know, we need to learn from. But I do think that there's going to be a significant level of new energy coming into the administration as well if I am the next mayor. And again, I can't wait to get started.
Great.
Just want to thank you all so much for this opportunity. Thank you, Dean Crowell. Look at these lawyers of the future, the next generation. I'm going to do everything I can so that by the time you all graduate, there are opportunities here in New York City and that we're excited about what lies ahead. So grateful to you all. You remind me a little bit of me when I was your age, but you're actually ahead of where I was, significantly ahead. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Crowell. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate our student leadership here as well. Thanks so much. We hope everyone enjoyed today's presentation.